Are you ready for the first brain hack? This is called neuroplasticity, and this is about how our brain is changing all the time, how there are billion trillions of connections between brain cells that are working all the time, and everything you have ever learned, all your habits, everything you are doing on a regular basis are creating, enforcing or removing these connections. Every newborn baby has an extreme amount of potential connections to learn every language there is, to learn absolutely every aspects of what a human body is capable of. And in the beginning, the first year as a baby, a lot of these connections just disappear because they're not used. To understand the concept of neuroplasticity, I will give you a little background. In 1993, I was at this work seminar about communication and relations, and the teacher was telling us that when you are 7 years old, your brain is fixed. Everything that is supposed to be there is in your brain and you can't change anything. That was so scary, and luckily it was totally wrong. In the beginning of this century, brain scientists have found that your brain is in constant change. There are always going to get new connections and old will fade away. So for all of us with disease in our central nervous system, where disease is eating away connections and reducing your ability and your function on different levels depending on where the disease is eating on you, or like I call it, the monster, where the monster is eating in my brain is affecting my body, right? But neuroplasticity, that is our brain's ability to constantly search for new possible connections. So if there is one connection that is totally damaged, it will try to create a new one. And if there's just partial damage, it will try to restore it and build new connections inside of that. So how can we influence this? Because this is the brain hack, right? How we can use our brain and our thoughts and our cognition to influence how the brain and the connections are developing. And this is the most important thing we do for almost everything, but especially now in this video series, the most important thing we do to reduce pain or to remove pain. Because pain is a signal from one brain cell to another. And since we're talking about neuropathic pain, this signal is off. This signal is not having any solid foundation. There's no reason for this signal. It's just like something gone wrong inside your brain, right? We don't like to think it, but that's actually what's going on. So we need to define what kind of signals do we want and how do we want to respond to an unwanted signal. And this is related to all the things we have learned throughout our total lifespan. All the things you do on a regular basis are things that you have learned and done millions of times over and over again. And that is a very good thing, because we can't start every morning and not remember how to brush our teeth or how to put on our shoes. Everything that we know and can do is created by all the connections, by all the repetition that we have been doing. And if you have a bad habit that you want to get rid of, it's easier to get rid of that habit if you can do something else instead. And if we have a pain signal that we don't want, obviously, we have to decide what do we want instead of it. And in this case, I like to use the metaphor of skiing. Okay, I'm Norwegian, I can't ski anymore, but in Norway we have a lot of snow and people normally do a lot of skiing. And if you can go skiing in a prepared path, it's called løype. If that is really prepared, really strong and easy to walk in, you can get a lot of speed. But if that path is leading you to a destination you don't want, it doesn't help that it's going fast. Then you have to decide, I want another destination. You have to start skiing off-piste in your brain. You have to make a new path where there hasn't been anyone before. And that is the essence of neuroplasticity. The point with this first introduction to the brain hack is to make you aware of what do you want. What connections do you want between your brain cells? What connections do you want to get rid of? Because when you start influencing your own brain, deciding how you want your brain to change, you need to know what you want. Because there is one very important thing about our brains, and that is that your brain can't understand a negative. If I tell you, don't think about the pink elephant, unless you are very determined on thinking of something else, your brain will create the image of a pink elephant. So if you don't want pain, you can't say to your brain that I don't want pain, because then pain is everything that will fill your brain. And when you are in pain, you know what I'm talking about, because it fills your whole being. It's so overwhelming, right? So you have to be very specific about what do you want instead. And this is the hard work, because if we go back to the skiing path, you need to let the old path snow and get inaccessible. Walk the new path, go skiing, go off-piste, use this new path so many times that turns out to be the new and the fastest and the best way. To make that path, you need to know where you want to go. And then you have to use your language to define very specific what do you want. And that is what I'll share with you in a later video when I talk about how I actually do this process, this technique, every time I get a pain sensation. Because you have to do it every time. Because if you just get into the temptation of just going on the old path just because it's so easy and fast, then you keep it open. And you will never be able to remove it completely. So you have to be totally consistent every time. In my experience, being totally consistent in dealing with my neuropathic pain, when for example my hand are exploding, it can be you spending 10 to 15 seconds every minute to deal with it when it comes. Or it can go several months without any pain sensation at all. This is totally unpredictable, like most of the diseases that affect our central nervous system. The unpredictability of the disease and the unpredictability of the pain is making it difficult to plan, right? Because you have to deal with it when it happens. But I have actually been able to stand on a stage giving a speech and doing the process at the same time. I'll show you how I do it.